Hey everyone, welcome to the second episode of our podcast here with Tim, Nancy, and myself, Ryan. We are ready for an incredible show. If you didn't see our first podcast on either Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, or on YouTube, definitely go check that one out. That's more or less a who's who are we, where do we come from, the opinions. If you want to know who we are, that's the episode to go check it out. If you want to know what Nancy thinks about the Kardashians, that's the episode you want to go check out. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about modern media. How have things shifted? And we're going to branch off and get into the tech show. We're going to get into a ton of, we've got jetpacks we're bringing up. So look, this is going to be all over the map, but it's all kind of tied together here with a lot of regulations, things from the left, the right, everything's going to kind of combine on this. But to launch us off, again, we're going to speak just at the beginning here. Modern media. Obviously, I'm talking to you now via YouTube, okay? A quasi radio program for 2022. You're listening to us on, Spotify, maybe Apple iTunes. I don't know. Definitely give us a review. But everything has obviously changed. Back in the day, there were only the three networks our parents or grandparents or us were watching. Now there's 1,000 channels on satellite. There are YouTube channels in abundance. It's wild. But maybe Tim, Nancy, introduce yourselves to the crew and let's get kind of rocking and rolling here on everything we got ready for the crew.
Well, it's Tim here. And when I grew up, it was basically the CBC, black and white with rabbit ears. And that's how I grew up, watching anything that was on CBC. That's where I started with my media, if you will. Nance?
Well, and I think, we're Canadian, but we used to get a lot of American stuff too from time to time. And Walter Cronkite was the guy that everybody watched and listened to. And they used to call him Uncle Wally. And Walter Cronkite was very even keel. He just read the news. And if anybody ever watched, what was that Robin Williams movie, Tim, that you like? The one that was
Good Morning Vietnam.
Good Morning Vietnam.
Yeah.
And literally they would pull the news down and they would just literally read it. There was almost that ticker that went around, breaking news, and they would just read what was in the news.
It was scripted because it was going out across the lines to the enemy. So of course it had to be edited and what's the word?
There was redactions. It was redacted and all that sort of stuff. But that was for safety in those days, right? Especially during war times. But it was still, media was just something that was read. They read it and there was no real commentary that was added to it. And now it's gotten to the point where there's so much commentary that it's hard to determine what's truth and what's not truth and what's just somebody's opinion. And while opinions are well intended, they can often lead people to maybe not have all the truth and all the facts. I mean, Ryan, what do you think of the situation? Oops, you're on mute, Ryan. Sorry.
That's okay. With respect to, there we go. We sorted out the microphone issue. So if you're not watching us, this is a commonality on my other channel, but looks like it's bleeding over here. But that's okay. We're back at it. So what do I think about modern media? It's funny because I'm obviously from a different generation. I'm only 30 years old, so I don't remember the Walter Cronkite days or anything like that. But I do vaguely remember watching the news to get the news. So it wasn't, I don't exactly remember the Gulf War, but I do remember my parents talking about the Gulf War. And I do remember watching the news as a very young cat, I'd say from 1996 or 7 kind of onward. So I got to see everything from Bill Clinton to George, everything, right? And, there was obviously, we've gone from left to right to left to right. So I've at least seen a little bit of a transition in the media. And we've gone from reporting the news to making the news, if that makes any sense. And this is the problem: is now we're seeing major media platforms like CNN, MSNBC, even Fox. And I bring up Fox because they are the dominating cable network they're the most popular in all of North America. It's just as simple as that, whether you agree with it or not. But even they are falling to commentary-based podcasts. It's funny because when you've got people, for instance, like us making a podcast, we're rocking and rolling, we're voicing our opinions. Then you've got Joe Rogan, who's 5-timesing CNN every single video. He's 3-timesing Fox. There's a part of me that, I believe in free market capitalism through and through. And the market is spoken that the type of media that is being portrayed now, I would say by the major networks, is not maybe I'm, kind of thinking
Okay,
maybe
well,
the major net. Sorry,
are you
Nancy?
finding this type of media is better than what we had before? Like, what I'm trying to understand is with CNN, we know it's very liberal based, and we know it's funded and backed by liberals or Democrats in the US, versus in Fox News, we know is very Republican or conservative leading. Some of these podcasters, like a Joe Rogan or a Gary Vanderchuck or some of the other key guys, like I love Anthony Pompliano. I It's hard to know where they sit. Am I wrong about that? Like, do
So
you
that's
know where
that's
they
a really good
sit?
point, Nancy, because
Great point.
it's a matter of where do these guys sit? Because as you say, bringing in personal opinion, where do you actually report the news and remain neutral?
Well, this is the thing, something that I'm kind of wondering myself. It's almost as if you see certain media outlets who've picked sides. And I will say that I'm free to say whatever I want on this podcast. You guys are free to comment whatever you want if you're a viewer. But this really, really got noticeable, I would say. I'm not going to say it started because I think it's always been here,
Mhm.
but I think the manipulation got noticeable when Donald Trump was elected president. And it
100%
definitely
agree.
separated everybody.
Yep.
And it made, if you're a CNN watcher, well, Fox News, people think you're crazy. If you watch Fox News, then everyone else thinks that you're crazy. It turned people upside down. Again, we're talking about right now, in my opinion, we're talking a little bit about their inability to move with technology, like with the internet, with social media. They're almost stuck in the past right now. And the weird thing is too, let me know if you guys are noticing this. I'm younger. Again, I'm 30, different generation. I definitely noticed this, but again, I don't know what it was like in growing up in the past. Do you guys find that they're bleeding commentary and news together on a level that's maybe you didn't sign up for that? Like, people go to YouTube for commentary. Okay, that's something they go there for. You go to Joe Rogan because he has questions, not answers, right? And the
Well,
news
yeah,
is trying to give us.
I think that's part of it, Ryan. But I'm almost wondering, how do I make an informed opinion when I go? I'm going to have to watch two news stations in order to make an informed opinion now, because I got to watch the CNN to see what they're saying, and then I got to run over here and I got to watch Fox News to see what they're saying. But what
Well,
I'm
is it any wonder though why people are abandoning that? Because it's very true that you
right.
do have to go to 1, 2, and 3 just to form your own opinion. Whereas a podcaster, we don't know where they're coming from because they're not telling us the news. They're asking questions and letting us figure out the answer for themselves or
Mhm.
ourselves, right?
But do you think that the way that it's been set up over the years, where let's just talk about CNN and Fox for a second. With CNN, and they're always going down one path. People who are liberal leaning or Democrat leaning would go there, and what it's doing is it's reinforcing their own opinions and their own
Of
beliefs,
course. Yeah.
that's what it is. And the same thing over here with Fox News is reinforcing the narrative or the story that they're telling, right?
It's an
So
echo
here's
chamber.
Right. So here's what I think is happening, and why I think Joe Rogan is and Gary Vee are and those types of things are jumping through and coming through at like shining at this point in time. It's because what's happening now is this is how the Democrats or the liberals are getting so ingrained that their opinion is right, because they're only watching things that reconfirm the narrative that's going on in their head. And the same thing with the left. And so what's happening is the divide is going wider and wider and wider. I want to live in a society where we can have this kind of free exchange of an idea, and then be able to expand and decide, well, I don't know if what I'm thinking is right, or I like part of that, but I'm not sure I agree with all of it. Like, how are we going to get to a point where we are more middle of the ground? Like, really?
Well,
Well,
that's a good point, because you make me think about, is it the fact that, you're 100% right that without the election with Donald Trump and Barack Obama, there would not have been the insurgents and the rise to power and notoriety that Fox got. Let's put you point
Well,
blank, right?
I'm going to totally combat you on that because Fox has been the #1 news network for 20 years now. So
Really?
it's not, yeah, no, this was even in Clinton
Hmm.
days. Fox is just the number one news network, and it's been a number one news network for Republican and Democrat presidents abound. Now, Fox has always been Fox, though. They're aggressively, and one thing about Fox that I don't mind is that there's only one of their programs that they say is the news program, and the rest is all commentary. The problem I have with CNN, for instance, is it's all news when in fact 90% of it's commentary, right?
Right.
And that's the thing is I don't know if Fox doubled down when Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton. So Fox doubled down and kept their status. But what happened is that CNN on the left saw it as an opportunity to obviously get some market share back, right? But the only way that you can get that market share back was, in their opinion, to go on full-blown attack mode. But again, the problem, though, is now the society is divided between warring boardrooms. And that's what's causing these issues, is the boardroom battling at Fox versus CNN. And that's just it. It's battling narratives. And we're here left thinking the only two news sources who are really worth watching. I mean, MSNBC goes so far beyond CNN that I find CNN and Fox to be kind of worth watching. But we're at a point now where they've gone so far into their own kind of corporate agenda for market share and this and that they've forgotten why we watch CNN or why we watch Fox. I don't watch Fox so that you can take a dump on every Democrat that you've ever seen. I don't watch CNN so that you can berate someone for a great idea just because they're Republican. That doesn't make any sense. But again, though, leading back to, there's obviously no regulations you can tie to a media organization because of free media and this and that and everything else. But because of that, though, we've seen, again, podcasters just explode because it's almost like
people don't know what to think anymore. They've been so programmed. Okay, we know that you are, Ryan, you are quite on the conservative side of the scale.
Yes.
Would you say you tend to go to Fox News as your go-to first and foremost, or how do you consume content to become informed?
I swear to gosh, I'm not even going to mention any names because we're not plugging. I get most of the questions that I have are usually because of podcasts and because of YouTubers and modern media. That's where I find it first. If there's something really interesting or breaking news, I will go to whoever has the best camera angle. Oh, sorry, guys. My dog's just saying hi. But I'll tell you, I cannot watch Fox without also watching at least what CNN has to say. Now, I do, just because I feel like I'd only be getting one side of the coin. Now, I do align with what Fox has to say most of the time. But again, I can't watch Fox without watching CNN. That's the problem with modern media. I could never watch CNN without hearing what they have to say on Fox. But I can listen to a podcast, and then it generates questions on my end, and then I go find my own answers, whether it be on Fox or CNN or CBC or BBC. And I find that I'm sick of being told the news because they're telling me their version of the news, right?
Right.
Like, I don't want to hear your version of the news. I just want to hear what happened. So when you force me to go to 5 different news outlets to form my own opinion, I'm obviously going to abandon the news outlets and go to a common sense guy on a podcast who's asking the questions we're all thinking and getting a direct answer. You know what I mean? I can spend 2 hours on a podcast or 10 hours searching online, and I'm still not going to find what I did on that podcast. I'm not going to find that online. You know what I mean?
Well, and Tim and I, we've really changed our behavior over the years. Well, first of all, we don't have television anymore. That's a change for us. We've stopped buying like a cable package. So we actually don't get regular streaming television. We go on to YouTube primarily first thing in the morning is when we consume most of our news, unless we're looking for something specific, like the announcement in Ontario today, where I want to understand what actually happened. I'll go and search specifically for the announcement in Ontario on January 20th, right? Yeah. But for the most part, we go to YouTube, and in the morning we go through and we've selected a few people that we like to consume the content that they're giving, because they're looking at the news items and then they're directing it how it would fit with our world. But it's snippets. Like I'm only watching Nancy, 2 to 3 minutes of CTV because I need to know.
let me tell you this, because this is where my eyes just opened to YouTube in part for my other channel and just in general what this whole space is. When I started my whole journey last year, I woke up one morning, it was January 6th, okay, and I put on my favorite YouTuber who does a market open live stream. And I didn't do that at the time, but this was what I loved watching every day. He put the market open live stream on, and out of nowhere, the Capitol, oh, Eddie, the Capitol riots happened, okay? Insurrection at the Capitol. And he covered it live. So when CNN would go to a commercial or would stop talking, boom, he's on another network. He was on for 12 hours that day. I will mention him because it was the best I've ever seen. The best coverage of a news event was on a YouTuber's channel. It was Meet Kevin. And you can go check out a 12-hour live stream. He even caught the passing of that woman live when not even CNN and the rest of them caught it. And it's just because he wasn't beholden to a message. He was trying to get the news out. And I never, if you didn't see that, then you didn't see what happened on that day, because that was just everything. Boom, 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 12 hours straight. That was news. And that came out of YouTube. And that came out of just someone who was curious and wanted the next answer, not beholden to, again, a rule or a script. Tim, what are you thinking, dude, on this whole thing?
No, I think that I'm thinking back to my childhood, and I'm just thinking about the news that came out then. And I think the media is now more in it for their shareholders. They're confusing things. They're trying to win. They're definitely one side of the coin or the other, in my opinion. And it confuses. The problem is that you get people who will drink the Kool-Aid on one particular channel, and that's what they will live and die by. And you're totally allowed to have that opinion, but I guess you need to have both sides of the equation, because if you don't have the real facts and you don't have the who, what, when, where, why, and how, then how do you substantiate the information that you're receiving to be true?
Well, let's talk about this actually for a second, relative to something that's actually going on in the news right now, given us questioning the information we're receiving. We know that in the United States right now, they are facing a question over insider trading, serious regulations here with Congress, people.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. So I've got I pulled up a news article that said lawmakers are under pressure to close their Robinhood accounts. So if there's one thing that can unite liberals and Democrats and mega hat wearing Republicans and everyone in FinWit, it's the idea that congressional lawmakers with their insider intel and ability to create market moving policies shouldn't be able to trade individual stocks. So momentum is building. There was 2 bills proposed. I think it was this week, if not, it was last week. One from a pair of Democratic senators and the other from GOP Senator Josh Hawley would reduce the number of Congress to the rest of us.
Okay, but this is the segue into, we're going to talk more about this in the regulations and opinions, but it's just funny how you're not going to see CNN talk about this. You will see Fox talk about this.
Right.
But you will see every other podcaster, left or right, talk about this too. This is the perfect example of why you can't trust one major media source over another, because it's BS. And that's, again, why we're hunting YouTube and podcasting so much as listeners. You guys are here and you probably don't even know who these people are, but we're Ryan, Tim, and Nancy. And we love you guys. But again, we're going here for different ideas because we don't like what we're being fed. It's insane. What do you guys think about this?
Do you think that this is why they've got this whole thing with conspiracy theories? Maybe they aren't really conspiracy theories, but everybody's labeled it as conspiracy theory, when really all it is people trying to uncover the truth. So that because the truth feels like it's being squashed or being covered up, that they're labeling that the other people that are trying to cover it up are going, oh, they're conspiracy theorist over there. But that's all people are trying to do. Our son is a big one for this. He's 25 years old and he consumes a lot of YouTubers and podcasters like Joe Rogan and Gary Vaynerchuk, and he's got a whole slew of them. And so if you asked him, he doesn't think he's a conspiracy theorist. He thinks he's trying to uncover the truth of what's really being fed to him. So is that even a thing?
The echo chambers are so damn aggressive and tight now that anything outside of that is a conspiracy theory. Look, if you go back a year ago and you said they're going to make vaccine passports, you were called a conspiracy theorist. Okay, you were. They're never going to do that. That was a conspiracy. You can go online and say, no, that's impossible. That's debunked. Where you're all crazies. Everything's a conspiracy if it doesn't go along with the narrative. Right. Until it's not a conspiracy anymore. And that's the problem, is that they've made it black or white. There's no in between anymore. So if you make it black or white, you're going to have a set of population here who says that doesn't make sense. So now they go and get their own answers. So they're almost digging themselves into a deeper hole here by making it so damn black and white.
Tim, and thus we have the result of dividing the country and dividing people. That's where the divide, the media. I believe that to a certain extent, with the way that the news can be reported and manipulated and down one path or another, it can contribute to the divide of us.
It's 100% contributing to the divide. I would almost say it's the major cause of the divide. Now again,
is that because the government or whoever only wants to feed us what they there's this whole understanding, only tell them what they need to know. People are on a need to know basis, and because we don't have all the answers yet, don't feed it all out, as opposed to being upfront and saying, hey, listen, this is what we think we're going to need to do, and this is the reason why we're going to need to do it. But they think that we are not adult enough to handle the information that we're being given.
Of course they are, because if you go back to the reference we used at the beginning of the show with Good Morning Vietnam, with where Robin Williams was handed the audited sort of verbiage of what he had to report on, they were doing it back there. Here's what you need to know. There's a lot more to the story, but this is going to keep everyone even keeled and perhaps swayed one person or swayed the society in one way or the other. In the form of the Vietnam War, it was build up rah the Americans and downplay and kick the other people between the legs, right?
Well,
so it just continues on. That's what's happening today. It hasn't changed. It hasn't changed at all.
I got a question for you then. So how do you guys, because obviously I would say the world's first taste, at least if you're a person, the world's first taste as you're growing up, you learn about propaganda, goes back to World War II, obviously. So it almost becomes a really bad word to say propaganda because of the context that true propaganda had back in the day. But when we look at the way that modern media, for instance, is shifting their message, it's very car salesman-y. It's very propaganda-like, because
100%.
And what I'm saying though is, this divide that's being caused right now is simply a sect of population identifying propaganda versus those susceptible to propaganda. And that's how I'm looking at it right now, because people think, go back 2 years. We didn't have this. Go back 5 years. We didn't have this divide. Nobody cared who you voted for. Nobody cared what your personal status was, this, that. Now it's everything.
In Canada, you're right. But in the US, they did. And now that's seeped up over into here because people feel, I think where you get that, they feel disenfranchised. And that's why the divide started to happen in the US. And Canadians never really felt disenfranchised until now, until we're being told you have to do this and you have to do that and you have to do this. And at first, because we're Canadian, we all go along with it because that's the polite society we have been part of. But then it reaches a crescendo where I think the scales start to tip, and then you really do start to think that your leadership,
you question your leadership.
Yeah.
You question the leadership, because it's not the leadership that's actually making what's being released in the news or being told what to release in the news. It's not. It's all behind the scenes. We all know that.
This is,
it's all fueled by deeper sources, right? Has to be.
Yeah. And this is one thing with respect to government controlled media messaging. Okay. Not as much a problem in the United States because of the free market they have. But here in Canada, we have state funded media. The CBC cannot sustain itself through advertising. So actually the CBC came out the other day and said, we're going to modernize, quote unquote. we are absolutely going to modernize. So what they're going to do to modernize, this is hilarious. They can't get advertisers. So what they said is, we don't need advertisers. We're going to look at other ways. Basically, more taxpayer funding, and they're going to absolutely drop the advertisers, which was probably the only thing keeping them in check. So now you've got an entirely state-funded media source that doesn't get any viewers, kind of like CNN. Nobody watches CBC except boomers. I'm telling you, just look at demographics, guys. Let's just look at demographics. Same with CNN. It's why if you watch Fox, there are baseball commercials, and if you watch CNN, there are Viagra commercials. It's the demographics, ladies and gentlemen. And the same thing for CBC. Nobody's watching anymore. But what do you guys think, though, about those Congress people, insider trading? These guys are policymakers, and they're buying Pfizer and Moderna 2 weeks before a rush out and lockdowns. I mean, I don't know. What are you guys thinking, though, realistically?
I think it's absolutely disgraceful. I think it's absolute. What gives them the right to be protected or have that information? And here again, it's like, let the people know when they need to know, but we're going to get in and we're going to get the goodies first. And what gives them the right? What gives them the right to do that? And what gives them the right is their power.
Well, I liked what Anthony Pompliano had said, because his idea was that we should pay them enough money that they don't feel the need to have to go and do all these crazy things, and B, there needs to be regulation that states they can invest, but they can only invest in things like mutual funds or ETFs or anything that's a bundled package, so it's not an individual stock. And then that way it's not like they get to directly take advantage of that insider information. I mean, Martha Stewart was very publicly jailed for having insider information.
Yeah.
How is it possible that all these Congress people that have these great big, I mean, I think I have the numbers here. You guys talk amongst yourself, but I will give you.
Okay, well, you bring that up, but when you just said Anthony Pompliano says to pay them more, I say go get fucked. There is no way that you need over $350,000 a year to work 7 months outside of. Now, I will say they work 24/7 when they are working. It's insane. But at the same time, if you can't make yourself a millionaire with 380 grand a year, you're the problem. So I'm looking at AOC, who's accomplished nothing, who isn't stacking any wealth. She's obviously has no clue how to handle money. Now, Nancy Pelosi, she could be a millionaire with 380 grand a year, or 300.
I think she's a multi-millionaire.
Well, she's worth almost $400 million. That's the
right.
problem, though.
Holy Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So here's the numbers. Okay. So last year, members of Congress bought and sold about 290 million in stocks, 140 million in options contracts, 124 million in other securities, and 500,000 in crypto. So as a group, on average, they beat the broader market, but these trades were concentrated among a sizable minority of lawmakers. So here's this: 430 out of 535 total Congress people didn't make any trades. So really, there's 105 of them that are. Now, there was this thing, it's called the Stop Trading on Congressional Knowledge, that STOCK Act, passed in 2012, made it illegal for federal lawmakers to conduct insider trading. It also required them to publicly disclose trades greater than $1,000 within 45 days of making them. But enforcement of the STOCK Act has been less strict than a substitute teacher on a Friday. So the Campaign Legal Center, an independent ethics organization, filed complaint Wednesday against 7 out of at least 15 lawmakers, it says, have failed to report investments, including one who it claims is 300 transactions behind. So no lawmaker has ever formally sanctioned as a result of STOCK Act, though some have had to pay fines that are not disclosed to the public. So I guess the big piece here is that there is a process that has been put in place, but nobody's policing it and nobody's sticking by it.
Well,
and it's
Nancy,
just a bunch of crap.
In Nancy Pelosi's case, she's not even trading. It's her husband who's the genius. like it doesn't take a friggin' like, are you
Oh,
kidding?
there's
Like
pillow talk. There's
yeah, like
pillow
we
talk.
weren't born yesterday, for God's sakes.
It's
This is the
actually
most
quite deplorable, and it's disgraceful, actually, that they're doing that, because they are totally taking advantage of their position of
Yeah.
power. And like it's actually disgraceful and shameful.
Why is
That's
this
my
coming up
opinion.
now? Why is this coming up now? Do we know?
That's a
Why
really
did
good
this make a
question.
headline?
That's a really good question. I know
Let me
it's
see
fun.
if I can figure it out. I think it had to do with Nancy Pelosi.
What, maybe she figures she's going to get caught? So she's bringing it up. She's getting ahead of the wave.
No, I don't. She's been defending her owning the
Oh,
stocks.
it's so it's a bunch of lawmakers that have proposed some bills. So it says these proposed bills wouldn't ban Congress people from holding stock, just trading them individually while they're in office. The Democrats' plan, for example, would require lawmakers, their spouses, and dependent children to set up a blind trust for their portfolios. So the current Congress is unlikely to move forward with either bill. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who has become a meme for her and her husband's uncanny investing skills, is against a stock trading ban. We are a free market economy, and the members of Congress should be able to participate in that, she said last month.
Hang on. Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't part of being president when Donald Trump came in, said he had to divest and separate himself from all his entities and stuff like that, right? Didn't
Yep.
he tell him to go pound salt to a certain extent, and he just did whatever he wanted?
Well, I think so, but I don't think he did. I'm not sure if he did or he didn't, actually.
He got his sons to do it. He did, or he had a family member do it. This is no different. They're just writing this law to say, well, we're aware of the problem and we've created something.
Well, okay,
Not that we're going to act on it, but we've created something and we're doing something about it, because that's what politicians do. We're
But I
doing
got a
something
question
about it.
because I think
No,
there
you're
is a
not.
big. I think there is a big difference because I don't think that analogy or that comparison holds water. Do you think there's a difference between those who come into office already extremely wealthy versus those who come into office with no money and become extremely wealthy?
Do I think there's
Like
a
Nancy
difference?
Pelosi. Like Trump had to separate himself from an already operating business empire. That is a lot different than coming in making 300,000 a year and 20 years later you're worth 400 million. To me, I don't see Trump using the office for money. In fact, it costs him tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. But him versus Nancy Pelosi, she's only making money because of her position in office.
Right.
What do you guys think about that? Because again, people will shit on Donald Trump and they'll shit on Nancy Pelosi, but I do think they are totally different scenarios.
I do too. I'm not sure, Ryan. Like, I'm not sure. I think if somebody comes in and they've already built an empire, that's I think okay. I think if we strip it all away, I think when you decide you're going to go into politics and you're going to go into higher office, I think you got to be willing to serve. And that
Yeah.
means that you don't get to enjoy all of what you had before. If you put it in trust or you set somebody else in charge of it, that's one thing, like Donald Trump did. And Nancy Pelosi, knowing it's human nature that she would tell her husband what things were going on and what deals were happening. But at a certain point, don't we have to hold people to a higher standard that are making our
You would think.
laws?
Well, Nancy Pelosi is third in line for the presidency of the United States.
What?
So the Speaker
Yes.
of the House will take over if they both die at the same time.
Oh,
So
boy.
yeah, so Nancy Pelosi is no joke. The Speaker of the House is absolutely massive. This is like the vice president, if you really want to think about it that way. They need to be held to a higher standard. Look at how they went after conservatives. Okay, and as you should, whatever, go after them. But it's rules for thee and not for me. You know
Right.
what I mean? And it's
Brutal.
absolutely hypocritical. It's almost like you're so in your echo chamber that everything you do, even illegal stuff, becomes okay. Because as long as you guys think it's cool, then everyone else is a total friggin' idiot.
But
So
do you
it's-
think that it's once people get this sense of power that they think of themselves as invincible? Like once you gain some power, then you think you can do no wrong. I mean, I know we didn't talk about going down this path, and it's a very sketchy subject, but it's no different than what happened with men that got in power and then started to take advantage of women. Like, I don't even know if I want to go down this road because I'm not sure I'm prepared to talk about it, but it's anytime that people get into a sense of power, they think that they can do anything, that they're invincible because they've got power. And Tim, you used to watch that TV show, the House of Cards
House
or
of
whatever.
Cards, yeah.
That it's just all that they think they can manipulate everything because
Well,
they've got the power to quash you.
Well, and they get and I dabble a little bit in the politics, right? And personally, but you get desensitized to threats. You get desensitized to, if I do this, could I get into trouble? Because you start to get away with little things, which turn into bigger things, and then you gang up, but you coordinate with someone else, and it's just, that's how it happens, because it's like, how are they going to take you all down? They're not, right?
They're not.
And
Well, this is the thing. Power is addicting. Power is addictive. It's probably the most addictive drug on the planet. Some people, and this is a podcast, we can say whatever we want on this podcast, whatever topic. Bill Clinton didn't handle power in his situation very well. Donald Trump did not handle power in his situation. Then we have Jeffrey Epstein's of the world. Then we have the Harvey Weinstein's of the world. You get power-hungry psychopaths. Now, what they want is different for everybody. It's disgusting when it's in sexual nature, like we're seeing with the Me Too movement. But some people get off on money, like Nancy Pelosi. You might have people who get off on the control of other human beings through employment. I almost feel like that's a Jeff Bezos thing. Like, and you know what I mean? I almost feel like just control of a population set. It doesn't matter what it is, but everyone has the thing that gets them off. Some people, and power means that you can get off every time you want. So again, whether that's a weird sexualized tick that is disgusting, or it's money, or it's control of people's friggin' lives.
And don't you think it's like not only is it the most addictive drug, but it's the most destructive drug? Because look at now what happened. Even if we went to Prince Andrew for a second, let's talk about him.
Yeah.
He is in trouble. Like the fact that his mother stripped him of, she had no choice. Quite frankly, she had no choice. Didn't matter if she believes him, doesn't believe him. At this point in time, she had no choice to do what she was going to do. But to think that you're that invincible that it's never going to catch up to you, when in fact it almost always catches up to almost everybody. Can you think of a single
to a certain degree?
You think of a single power hungry person where it hasn't caught up to them? Jeffrey Epstein, prime example. Millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, could do anything, could go anywhere, could be anything, could have conversations with anybody, and it was self-destructive what he did. Same thing, you think his Royal Highness, who's no longer his Royal Highness, same thing, like self-destructive behavior, because you think, okay, and a beloved Bill Cosby. Beloved, we grew up on Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids and the Cosby Show and all that sort of stuff. Like Bill Cosby was iconic, and that power was self-destructive. He had such a persona built around himself that he let that power go to his head. But you can go down the line, and there isn't almost anybody that uses their power for a destructive force, that it doesn't end up being the thing that's their demise.
It's like a rock star that gets fame and they go down the tubes on alcohol and drugs.
Yeah, self-destructive.
It is. It's totally self-destructive. So do you want to switch gears?
Let's switch gears.
Sorry, I was looking out there. There's a big ass deer with a big rock of antlers at our bird feeder out here right now.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
And it's dark out and I can just see his silhouette, and he's looking back at me, and I'm thinking, buddy, don't come any closer.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Well, I wanted to talk about quickly this really cool thing that I found on Twitter. And I showed it to you guys. I'm not sure if we have the ability to share something here, if we even want to, whether we just try and talk about it.
Well, talk about it, because I can share it in the after edit.
Okay, so there was this jetpack thing. and it was a video of the U.S. military doing an exercise, and so they had a lot of those little what are those things called, the boats that are in the water, the Zodiac boats, and they were following a big destroyer in the water, and this military guy comes up with his jetpack. So he had a pack on his back, and it was on his arms, and he was using his arms, and the arms were the thing that propelled him above the water, and he was leaving the Zodiac and going from the Zodiac up onto the destroyer. And it
Ladies
was
and gentlemen, hold
cool.
on, because Nancy, you guys might be just listening. You guys can't see it unless you're on YouTube. Go check out our YouTube channel. But she's not kidding. This was a friggin' soldier with an Iron Man jetpack on, taking off from one boat, flying across the water, landing on a battleship. Okay, this is no shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, Nancy, keep going. Yeah.
Well, okay. So it was first of all, thought it was super cool. Like I honestly was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And of course, because I'm a strategist and I'm a big picture thinker, and this is where my head goes. I've got an imagination. I've got an overactive imagination, as I know you do, Ryan, which why I have trouble. I can't talk about things that will make my mind go to the wrong place. But I got picturing what the future could look like if, as a business person, I could just strap my jetpack on my back and put in my destination, and then I just go from point A to point B, and I don't have to sit in a car and wait for, multiple things to happen.
I'll be honest. I don't think we're going to see jetpacks being used by regular people anytime soon. But I would be, I mean,
too many dum-dums out there. There's too many dum-dums.
Okay, but say it was
see them on the road.
Say, this was an old video. So say this was an old video, because Ryan, you thought that they had the wrong military suits on, like uniforms on. So we deduced that this was probably a few years old, this video we saw.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that. So I want to double check on this video. I will let you guys know in the description exactly what I find out. It's either British, given their uniform, or it's a pretty old American video. One or the other.
So let's just assume what it is. And then let's assume that in 5 years, just say in 5 years, that there's some kind of technology out that allows us to do this. Traveling like this.
What do you mean there's some kind of technology? It's out there now.
No, I know, but it's probably super duper over the top expensive. So it would have to be technology that comes back into an affordable format. I started thinking of the endless possibilities of what this could be used for. And so then I went to the place of, could you imagine us all flying around up there? And what kind of challenges would we be faced if A, there was individuals in jetpacks, and B, if eventually there could be flying cars, because I've seen some of those.
Well, I mean, like, let's just, okay, whether you're subscribed to the whole jetpack thing or autonomous thing or whatever, just so our viewers can visualize this, they're already making drone taxis, okay? So let's just fill the air. Let's just fill the air. Again, it can be a jetpack, it can be a flying car, whatever. The drone taxis are actually in production and stuff like that. But imagine, I can only imagine people flying around with jetpacks. I mean, I don't think I'll make it to see it, but that would be epic. But Tim, what's it looking like? Because you're the driving instructor. You're the talent from Canada's Worst Driver. In case people don't know who you are, you can go find him on TV for like a decade. He's been there, done that. This is the regulation guy. What's that look like, dude?
Well, I mean, you've got to initially put it into aviation terms and think about what air traffic controllers do and what the guidelines are that pilots do, because you're going to have to take that mentality, because you're going to have to think about vehicles moving really, really quick, because that's probably what's going to happen, faster than a car. Mind you, the vision's going to be great because there's no trees, there's no geographical
no squirrels.
No squirrels.
Well, you know how they say, though, honestly, Tim, that it is safer to fly an aircraft than it is to drive in a car?
Oh, of course it is.
I'm just wondering.
It's the same thing as saying it's safer to drive on the highway than it is in the city.
Yeah.
Why?
I would say less traffic. I mean, no? Okay.
On the highway, yeah. So on the highway, you don't have intersections, traffic lights, bicyclists, pedestrians, buses. You don't have that on the highway. All you have is interchanges, which are every so often, and an increased rate of speed. The reason why the highway crashes are so deadly is because of the increase in speed. So why do you think that it's going to be deadlier up there? Look, if they go and they do this, it's going to be think of the people where the jetpacks are your bicyclists and your skateboarders, and then think of the people in the what you call them, the cars, the
drones or drone taxis,
whatever it is. They're
Yeah.
they're the vehicles, right? The technology will be built around that. The problem with the jetpacks and stuff like that is the environment, cold, heat, rain. How is
Well,
that going to affect it?
Not only that though, let's just
And
think
your
about
vision,
something.
and it's like, how can you detect something coming at you when it's
Sensors.
not on a road, it's not on a
Well,
grid,
that's why I
unless
don't
they
think
create grids.
I
What?
don't think jetpacks will ever happen, just because again the licensing required. For instance, you can have autonomous air taxis. We're obviously getting the data for autonomous vehicles right now, and that'll very soon be able to be implemented into a sky road that is on a computer. I mean, that's so a drone, an autonomous drone is probably right around the corner. A jetpack, for instance, is a psycho Iron Man type who can go anywhere doing whatever, and they still have to file a flight plan if you're above X amount of feet. So that's why I can never imagine, again, thinking about it in aerospace terms, a jetpack is not ever going to happen for the mainstream, because it gives the power to people when you can't do that truly, like in airspace. Like, you have to be trained. Everybody in airspace right now has a license to be in a vehicle operating inside of airspace. So every single one of them right now, or we're going to potentially have the autonomous drones. I don't know. To me, I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around
Okay, so let's
the idea of
two
jetpack.
Evolution.
two
It's
trains of thought on this. If we're in a free market society and people are manufacturing anything and everything and they're selling anything and everything, what stops a company from selling stuff like that?
The
What
FAA, by limiting how high you can go.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So that's
regulations. Yeah, it'll be
so
just
you're
just
dead.
like the same thing as they can control a drone. You know, our son Wes is a master drone pilot or whatever, drone pilot, and he had to take the courses to file with NavCan for anything that is downtown, around an airport, or whatever. Your average person who goes into Best Buy and buys a drone does not have the training nor the education behind them to do what Wes does.
But it still doesn't mean that he can't go into Best Buy and buy a drone.
But the point is that those people try to get close to these areas, and technology, the way it is right now, will shut those things down immediately, and they'll fall out of the sky.
Well, okay, let me just put it this way. In order to buy certain cars, you have to have certain qualifications for safety driving standards and stuff like that for certain high-end cars. You're not even going to be able to buy a jetpack. You're not even going to be able to buy a jetpack without first presenting certification that you can operate the vehicle. So the average person's in a free market not even going to be able to purchase one. This to me is just military grade technology.
And unless there is technology to say this person is got the qualification and is got this thing strapped on their back, once that thing is released into that person's hand, you now have to have some sort of default in there to know that that person is the one operating that. That's not the way a car operates now. Someone can go in and you can loan a car out to anyone you want.
Maybe it would have to have finquote technology or iris technology in order that won't start unless it's that particular.
Oh, it's
quite frankly,
right now.
Quite frankly, I see other problems with this, and it has to do with hair and outfit. I won't be able to wear my business suit without somebody seeing up my skirt if I'm flying around. So this is part of the problem. And when I get there, my hair will be stuck to the side of my head. So for me, I'm really waiting for the technology like they have on Star Trek, where I can just go beam me up or beam me over to that place over there. And then I just sort of disappear and appear. That's what I'm really waiting for, less so than the ability to fly on jetpack. That's just my 2 cents. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's other women out there that feel the same, but there's other women that don't even think twice about putting a helmet on and getting on a motorcycle.
Do you know what, Ryan? You know where it's really going to come in and probably hit the market first. Is our first responders.
They're already using that in Dubai. Jetpacks.
Well, no, but can you imagine that a SWAT team comes out of nowhere out of this? Like in the city and right?
That's actually cool, Tim.
You're right. No,
and the Canadian forces, like when I was on the show, I had this one guy, I don't know if I got the term right, it was a gaffer or something like that. But he was a medic, a reserve medic for the Canadian Armed Forces. And he was also a drone operator. And at that point in time, when we've been off the air for 4 or 5 years, and at that time they were starting to nail down the ability for a drone to fly in medical supplies to a soldier or to someone who was on a training mission up in Borden or Petawawa or out in wherever, fly it in. They didn't have to worry about a helicopter or anything, and it was faster. So don't kid yourself. That stuff will be I can just imagine that, can you imagine crowd control? Like, go ahead and throw a rock that far up in the air. I don't think so. You know what I mean?
You know what's funny?
Let me just turn my jet on you and cool you down a bit, right?
If we look to I would, when I say the Middle East, I mean just this region. But if you look to Israel in the Middle East, Dubai is in particular using this technology. But Israel has already mounted weapons onto drones to send into encampments or this or that. And I don't know what would be scarier than a friggin' drone coming into my room with a rifle strapped to it. And it pulls the trigger. And I'm like, oh my God. Meanwhile, the guy's 500 yards away in a bulletproof car. And I'm like, the world's changed. It's going to be wild because we're already noticing people playing remote control war with respect to drone warfare right now in literally in steel containers in the middle of Texas, controlling bombs in the Middle East. And it'll be very interesting to see where this technology goes. Talking about that, because Nancy's got some info that she was alluding to. We just had that CES tech show, right? Yeah. Speaking of technology and all that, Nancy, maybe drop some bombs on us with respect, no pun intended, with respect to some of these wicked drops that we saw.
Well, a lot of it had to do this year. Some of the top stories of this were the electric vehicles that are coming. Chrysler's got an airflow one, and it's all really, really cool. So I'm just looking to see,
Well, I can tell you, I kind of got up to speed on that a bit, and John Deere's in development an autonomous tractor.
Okay, that'll change. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, which will make things really, really interesting. And BMW has a prototype, not out to the public yet, of colors that can change on a car. Only black and white right now, but it will reflect at the push of a button your mood.
No, I think more than just the mood, Tim. I think the black helps to retain the heat in the vehicle in the winter, and the white helps to deflect it. I think that was part of the reason on it. I know that one of the things I'm reading here is that Chrysler,
it's a good getaway car too.
Oh, geez. Chrysler intends to only sell electric cars by 2028, and that's a full 7 years before GM plans to go all electric in 2035. And they've got this new airflow concept. And so it literally, some of these things like the SUV EV pack has two 201 horsepower electric motors and promises a range between 350 and 400 miles. So I think that these EV cars are really super cool. I just kind of wonder what the fallout is. So we're trying to resolve one problem over here of going to a greener option, and it's all over. That was the big story of the CES, was primarily that was all these electric vehicles, but then it's going to have a fallout. Like, I'm not sure we have enough batteries or
it's going to create the environmental problem more than the stuff that's created by oil and gas and stuff like that. It's going to create,
do you know how dangerous
different environmental danger to us now. And it's just like, we're all recycling with our blue boxes and stuff now. Why didn't we think of that 20 years ago? Why didn't we catch it then? It's just, they're going to go ahead full steam ahead because this is the way to go green. But what are you going to do with the aftermatter?
There are more carbon emissions emitted from producing a battery than building an ICE car, an internal combustion vehicle. So this is not a green thing. It's just stupid people think it is. Because we're about to mine more than we ever have globally in our entire lives. It's going to be controlled by the worst governments known to man in China and the Middle East. It is going to be dominated because that's where the world's lithium is. So we're hooped. And we're going to shut down the only resources that we have here to produce a cheap transportation option. Watch, we have energy crisis popping over everywhere.
Well,
Okay.
Ryan, do you think
crazy.
that they're going on the electric push for a 10-year rollout or whatever the case is because the resources in oil and gas are starting to dry up and we just don't know it yet?
No.
Okay,
And
I'm
I'm
just
worried
asking.
about
I'm just
No, no.
asking.
No. Even Elon Musk himself says that getting off of oil right now would be suicide for electric vehicles. We have enough oil to go for another 1,000 years. It's
Well,
not a
and not
problem.
only that, but Ryan, think about it. If you were in the oil and gas business, these guys are monster wealthy. You mean to tell me they're going to just roll over and let
I'm
this
surprised there's not
happen?
more political fallout on this.
No, well, why would there be? They're not mining lithium in our country or North America. They're mining lithium where they have slave labor in the Middle East and China. That's where the biggest deposits are worldwide outside of Canada. So, and North America. So what are we going to do? We're going to support these shit governments like we always do. And they're going to dominate things. We're going to have the Jaegers, whatever they're called there. Sorry for mispronouncing. The Jaegers who are getting killed every day. The Uyghurs, that's what it is. Sorry. The Muslim Uyghurs who are used as slave labor. They're already in mines right now. So we're going to keep absorbing every bit of slave labor we can to satisfy our green economy. And it just goes to show how hypocrite the green agenda is. People are dying. The world is far more disgusting environmentally now mining into the earth for lithium than it was taking advantage of the oil that's already been available to us. To me, this is obviously an opportunity for people to make money. This is going to be an incredible opportunity. I think it's going to, like everything that goes up, this will come down classically because it's not sustainable right now at all. We don't even have enough resources to satisfy these. Like for Ford, GM, and Chrysler to say that by 2030 we're going to be electric vehicle or whatever, right?
Yeah.
We don't have the resources worldwide. So you're already lying to us for the sake of marketing, or the world's fucked and we just don't know the energy crisis that's coming yet. So you're not telling me the truth. You're lying to me. So again, it's not sustainable.
They're just building a narrative around what they think is everybody wants to hear because the sustainability movement is the number one thing. Even in all the stuff I read about restaurants, everybody wants us to be able to say, oh, this is sustainable and this seafood is sustainable. Everybody wants the sustainability story because that's where they've been.
Buzzword of the decade.
Yeah, like it's crazy. So I'm going to just move on to some of the other really cool innovations that I thought came out. And one of the ones is all the innovations coming onto laptops. And they're now having tablets embedded into laptops so that you can scroll through your pictures. Like think about your iPad that you might have pictures and games and apps and all that stuff embedded in a laptop so that when you're doing your graphic designs, it can go right from here up into right onto your screen. Like they've got some super cool technology. There's lots with innovations on televisions and that whole piece. But the biggest thing that was talked about, and it's something you and we talk about on a regular basis, is a lot of these VR headsets and how cool the VR AR headsets are getting. The Oculus Quest was a big, the best VR headset. It's the Oculus Quest. So yeah. They've got tons of that sort of stuff, and it's coming fast and furious. So,
I want one. And I'm going to bring this up for anyone who is watching right now, whether it's your Apple, your Spotify, your YouTube, whatever, because I'm noticing all over the place. Parents are, again, this is maybe a question you guys can answer for me here, but I'm more or less posing this to the crew. I've noticed on Twitter a lot of parents questioning, maybe not even having problems, questioning was this a good Christmas gift idea? Yeah. Is this something appropriate for a kid, given how immersive it is? It's not like a regular video game at all. If you've had the chance to use it, what do you guys think? Is it almost too much tech for a kid, or is it just par for the course and maybe we just don't get it? Or, I mean, I love it, me myself, but Twitter's filled with parents who don't know if this is a good thing or not. I don't get it, but what do you guys think?
And I don't know yet. Only
I just think it's the evolution of the Tonka truck being now remote control, as it was in my day.
Yeah,
going from remote, it's just an evolution of a product. It started back with the Game Boys way back when in my days and in your days and stuff like that. It's evolution. This is what it's going to. This is you can't stop this from rolling down the hill. It's going. And I think what they're probably doing is maybe, in some respect, educating the younger kids on how to use it, what it's all about, so that they have the brain power and all the ideas going forward when that generation matures into the market to have to take it that next step.
Not to mention people who are assuming that the Oculus is all about gaming. I can tell you right now, that's an ignorant assumption, okay? Because this is like an education tool. If you forget the games, I mean, the games are amazing, okay? The exercise alone on some of these games, again, it could be a fitness regime, okay? But beyond that, you can explore places on planet Earth that you could have never seen before in your entire life with the Oculus. And I mean, let's talk about people who are physically impaired and can't necessarily go to XYZ. This is incredible for people who are students who want to see what the Great Wall of China really looks like and feels like if there's ever haptic suits. You're going to be able, children and I mean, everybody. If I put in an Oculus, I can go to the moon right now, walk around and see where they planted the flag and look at the Apollo ship. It's out of control. To me, it's like,
the first generation that I got experienced was probably 2013, 14. And it was with one of my associates, and it was down at the, I forget what it was, an innovation summit down at the Metro Convention Center. And what it was it incorporated the GoPro 360 at the time and the Oculus, which was just coming out, and how you would film with the GoPro 360 and then put the Oculus on, and you could just look around. So this is just that on steroids. It's just going to get more intense.
I just can't wait to get an Oculus.
It'd be good for driving too. It'd be good for assessing. I mean, I can think of it in my industry, how I could use it too. The only problem that comes with that when you get to the driving part of it with the older generation is the simulator sickness that potentially could happen.
Yeah, but that's why they're starting them young, so they get used to that stuff. A couple of the other things that were on the innovation, this was on the restaurant side of things. So I just want to lob this couple of things out and see what you guys think of this. So these were three off-the-wall food tech products that you've never heard of. They were featured at the CES Tech Show this year. So what if restaurants had utensils that made your food taste better? Or something that could recommend a dish based on your mood. These are some of the out of the left field questions prompted by a tour of the virtual food show floor at this week's CES conference. So let's say a spoon that makes your food taste better. So Spoon Tech is a smart spoon that generates a mild electric current that stimulates the tongue, which apparently enhances flavor and reduces aftertaste. The company notes that it's good for low-calorie foods that might be healthy but less flavorful. So it makes your salad taste better, clearly. Consumers can order the spoon online for $29, a price point that wouldn't be very economical for a restaurant, and what would providing such a spoon say about your food in the first place? But it's an interesting idea, particularly for concepts that aim to offer an experience.
Maybe. It's a novelty to me.
Right. They had a container that lengthens shelf life. So Uvera makes a storage container that it says helps food stay fresh longer. The box, called Aurora, uses UVC light and vacuum sealing to create a sterilized, oxygen-free environment. The box extends the average shelf life of meat by 33%, fruit by 123%, and veggies by 141%. So because food waste is a huge problem for restaurants. The USDA estimates that the industry loses $162 billion every year because of wasted food. Many tech tools on the market today aim to address the issue by automating inventory and prep so the restaurants are only buying and making as much food as they need. And Uvera takes a different approach. Though its existing product is designed for household, the company said restaurant versions are coming soon. So that's another one I thought.
But I can see that container that you just described there as actually an answer to a certain degree of staffing problems, because if I have one staff, I can prep for longer periods of time, then it stays fresher.
Yeah, there's definitely some economies of really doing one job for longer periods, because we would only prep for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, you've got a shelf life on that.
Spoil. Yeah. That's right.
So you could double it, and then so I could see how it would aid staffing, and I can see how someone, people or families who food prep for the week could actually just do the whole week at once, and it would be fresh and healthier.
Yeah. So the final thing was This is an app that matches food to mood. Okay. My Air is two things, a mobile app and a snack bar company. What, you ask? Do these two things have to do with one another? Well, the app measures a user's stress level and then matches them with a variety of superfood bars designed to help what ails them delivered to their door every month. So I'm skeptical of an app's ability to accurately track your mood, let alone a packaged snack's ability to improve it. But the fact that this technology even exists got me thinking about the potential as a marketing tool. And if, for instance, a restaurant could integrate with someone's My Air app and automatically offer them a milkshake when they're stressed or a coffee when they're tired, even better. What if there was an app that alerted a restaurant when someone was hungry? So I'm just thinking in my head that, I mean, they're onto something there, because think about it. There are certain times when all you want is bag of potato chips. For women, there's certain times we want chocolate.
You know what, Nancy, I think I got to shut you down here for a second, because this is a cool freaking idea. But at the end of the day, look, they've been trying to, this whole mood thing, whether it was a mood ring in the friggin' 90s, for God's sakes,
car,
everything. I mean, look, I think it's a gimmick, a marketing gimmick, basically. Look, I can tell you're hungry. Really? It's lunchtime. You know what I mean? It's stupid shit like that, right? It's, oh, really? It's dinner, right? So this is, I see more potential in the flavored spoon than I do this mood app, because
listen, you're right. It's a gimmick. But think about it. In the 70s, people sold people pet rocks and they bought them in droves. So maybe they would try this app.
We're missing something. We're missing something. This would be good for people who have dementia and Alzheimer's.
Okay. See, now we're talking. Okay, that I can wrap my head around. That's interesting. I don't have any experience with anyone with dementia or I've had family, but I didn't interact with them at this time because I lived in a different city. Mm-hmm. But when you go a whole lifetime, forgive my ignorance here, you go a whole lifetime, you know exactly what you're doing. Have you ever witnessed someone forget how to eat? Like, and yes. I mean, or like, yep. So like, yep. So if you weren't there to help them, would they starve? Is what I'm asking.
That's how they die sometimes.
Yeah. So that's pretty much barbaric as that sounds. That is exactly what it is. And I think this is a great launch point for something like that to help with that.
Okay. So this is more just for me now because my mind is being blown. So if someone with dementia has no help, they will not drink water. Like, right. Do they remember like, oh shit, or do they not know where to get the water?
I think, yeah. The people, they get caught in a thought, and it's a loop until something breaks that loop.
Mm.
So they forget that their brain doesn't work the same way. Like right now, when you feel hungry, your stomach tells your brain, hey, you got to feed me. But it's like their brain doesn't work in exactly the same way. Neither of us are dementia experts, but I do know that this is a condition of the disease, right? Mm-hmm. So you're right, Tim, this could have some applications for folks that, anyways. We should not talk about this morbid subject, but anyway,
I forgot what we were talking about.
The long and short of it is there's some really cool innovations out there, and it makes me excited about the future. I'm always excited to see a glimpse into what our future life is like and how all these innovations could help save us time and make life more interesting and more exciting, because that's what life's all about, being interesting and exciting from time to time.
Very true. I know tech shows are exciting to watch. You always see a bunch of stuff that is a flash in the pan you might never see again, and then some stuff that might change the way that we do things. And the Ring doorbell started at a tech show, and then it went to Dragon's Den, and then it just blah, 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 blah. It all starts somewhere. It is very cool. I will say this. I know on my end, again, this is episode 2. I'm excited for episode 2. We're just kind of rocking and rolling. Very few people, it's unfortunate, are going to hear episodes 1 to 10, just the nature of us starting our channel. You guys are probably going to catch up. But if you are someone who subscribed to our channel when we were, I don't know, bigger on episode 40, who knows? But you actually went back and watched episode 1, 2, 3. Let us know in the comments if you're coming here as not necessarily a newbie, but someone who's just wanted to see our older stuff. Very curious. Also, in the comments to either your favorite podcast platform or us on YouTube here as well, go find us, the Aftershow podcast. Are you riding a jetpack? Would you buy a spoon that changes the taste of things? Guys, let us know. I want to know all this stuff because, again, you guys are what feeds us and keep us going. It makes us, really happy. We had one more thing that I have written down that I almost skipped over here, but it sickened me to the point where I wanted to throw up, okay? So before we go, I can't skip this because it's so disgusting. I need to tell you guys, Campbell's Soup Goop. Okay, Nancy, take it away. Let them know how disgusting Campbell's is right now.
No,
Maybe
it's not disgusting. It's all about innovation and trying to find. Sure. No, it's about trying to find functional ingredients and giving the consumer an experience. And hold
on. You're going to get into it, but to preface this, ladies and gentlemen, I have a Campbell's Soup Margarita for you. Okay, Nancy, go.
Okay, so Campbell's Soup has developed their new broth tails. These are recipes for cocktails that predominantly feature their broths. So imagine this.
Ew.
A mushroom truffle daiquiri. How about a faux mango bourbon sour? Now, here we go. How about a Thai chicken Negroni? And finally, Ryan's favorite. Ryan, plug your ears.
Oh, folks, you got to see this on. You got to go to the
ramen mezcal margarita.
It's sick.
It's bad, man.
No. So, okay, I want to see whether or not I'll tell you a little bit of the ingredients on this, because when you see it, it's actually not as bad as you think. Okay, it's not as bad as you think. And so this one, I've pulled up the pork ramen mezcal margarita. So it's using the pork ramen broth. So the broth, okay. And what you got in here is it's 1 ounce of tequila, 1 ounce of mezcal, a half an ounce of Cointreau, 3/4 of a fresh lime. So far it's the same as a margarita. Nothing's really changed. You put a little bit of sugar in it for your syrup, right? And then a chili oil, a cilantro for garnish. So again, these are very typical things. The difference is, instead of putting like soda in or some kind of a pop format, you're going to put a 1/4 of a cup of the Campbell's ready-to-use pork ramen broth. Disgusting. So what they would do is they would heat the broth, add the sugar, so it's going to make it a little bit sweet. And so all you've done is you've added a different flavor profile to what would normally be a normal cocktail. And so I'm curious, you can find all of these on cookingwithcampbells.ca under their broth tales. And so I'm curious to see if anybody in our chats or in the comments is going to go and try them, because it's all about the experience. And oftentimes, I know Ryan has a funny tummy, but I will tell you, when I first started working in the restaurant, I didn't like certain things. And then I worked with a very creative and a very inventive chef. And he used to tell me, because he would say he was always creating new dishes for our restaurant chain. And so he would come, and I was his test subject, because I fit the demographics of the people that we were trying to sell to, middle-aged, female, blah, blah, blah. So he'd want to test these new dishes on me. And so the first thing that would come out of my mouth is, what's in it? And then he'd go, just don't ask. I want to get your first initial response to what I've created here. And so I got to the point where he had to give me a blindfold so I wouldn't look, because if I just looked at it, I would go, no. And then, because I had some preconceived notions of it. And then he'd go, just tell me what the flavor is. Tell me what you're experiencing. And it broadened my mind to the point where I never ate an olive before in my life until I started working with him. And then he got me into all the different flavors of olives. And it was because he taught me to experience the whole flavors.
I get this is my thing, though. If their whole marketing strategy has the whole, just trust me, bro. if you need to say that to anyone who's looking at the ingredients, I don't know, it's risky. Or if you have to put a blindfold on, it's like, here, just don't look at it, bro. Just pretend it's not there. I don't know. They're going to have a tough sell on this one. If anyone can ever have a chicken noodle soup daiquiri or whatever, let me know. I mean, I want to know if you guys are mixing it all up. But to me, this
well,
is
you
like
know what?
easy.
I know the Campbell's rep that works with me. I'm going to ask her the next time I talk to her if she's tried any of these, and I'm going to get her honest opinion of the flavor, and I will give you an update
Careful what you ask
on a
for.
future episode as to whether or not these were successful. But what I want to applaud Campbell's for doing is taking a very functional ingredient and finding ways to use that ingredient in unique and different in unique and different settings, because truth be told, like, that's where we're going to have to get good with using what we've already got in our hands and making something different with it. So I applaud them for the courage to expand their horizons in this way. Whether or not it's delicious, that remains to be seen. But I'm going to be up for the challenge. I would like to get a couple of these and try the recipes. And
well, for the crew then, I mean, let us know how your broth tales go. I'm not trying one until I see someone on camera try one, so that I know if there's a gag reflex or not, okay? Because I'll throw up everywhere. So I need someone else to try this. Let us know in the comments below who's going to do broth tales. We're almost an hour and 20 minutes into this, ladies and gentlemen. We conquered everything plus what we wanted to talk about. I know, and get this, okay? We were going to talk about this, but we decided there's way too much. It's going to be a standalone. Join us for episode 3 so we can get into our shenanigans and maybe dive a little bit deeper into AI, okay? Because we know that that's shifting the way that the entire world's working right now. You interact with AI every day, even if you don't realize it. Doesn't matter if you're my age or a friggin' boomer. AI knows exactly what you're up to every day, all day, and that's why you get the ads that you do. So that's tomorrow or next week's episode. Every Tuesday, ladies and gents, whether, again, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, join us every single Tuesday. Obviously, if you're listening on the radio version here, Spotify, Apple, whatever, if you want to see our reactions, our faces, go over to the Aftershow podcast on YouTube. The link is in wherever you get your podcasts, and then you can actually see what we look like. You can see our funny reactions, and we can go from there. But ladies and gentlemen, make sure to leave us a review. Let us know what you guys want to get out of this podcast as well. It helps drive the conversation. Maybe starting with whoever the hell wants to open their mouth first. What are you guys looking forward to next week?
Yes.
And silence. Okay.
Well, it's a rabbit hole with the AI. It's definitely
it's interesting.
It's been a while, and I think what's interesting is if we can. I mean, we'll maybe do some research and just see, what was the nuts and bolts of how it really started in its archaic and primitive state years ago.
For sure. And I mean, we'll get into it. Like I said, too, guys, if you're questioning or have questions about it, obviously let us know in comments. We can address that. Things are obviously, I don't know, episode 1, 2, and for the next little while, things are slow and steady wins this race here. Obviously things are going to pick up as things go along here, but let us know. You guys are as much a part of this community as obviously us are making these shows. Nancy, I know we're excited about AI, but on your personal life, what are you looking forward to in this next 7 days? Before we talk,
I get to see my daughter. I haven't seen her since early November, so we're seeing her on the weekend. So we're really excited about that, and lots of things moving and shaking in the food and the restaurant world. We're excited that things are starting to ease up in Canada, and so from a professional point of view, things are getting really exciting again at work. So just busy, but I always love the opportunity to chat about all these things, because I'm opinionated. There's no two ways about that, and I love sharing and learning new things. And so this is really great. So what are you up to this coming week, Ryan?
We're rocking and rolling. I mean, obviously ahead of that, I got my other YouTube channel to worry about there. One day, I'm sure we'll let you guys know where you can find us on that other side. But outside of that, then I'll be prepping for this, taking care of the dog, family stuff, the huge guys, just living life. But I will say, guys, leave us a review if you're watching podcasts. If you're watching YouTube, leave us a comment. You guys don't realize how much comments, likes, and reviews actually do help out upstarters like us. So feel free to join the incredible Nancy, the amazing Tim, and myself, Ryan, on episode number 3. Going to dive into AI, and then obviously we get off track like we always do, and it'll turn into a great conversation because that's what we're good for. So ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next time. Have a fantastic week. Stay safe. and spring's around the corner. Bye, everyone.